Scorn is a body horror shoot-in melee puzzle game, currently free from Prime Gaming via the Good Old Game Store until the 31st of December 2024. If that description sounds weird and a little confusing, yeah, this is not a game, and one that's a bit tricky to review. It is an 18 plus here in the UK, and that's for very good reason. This review is not an 18 plus. I will not be showing you the bits, and I mean bits of people that make it an 18 plus. Scorn looks great. Well, not great. It looks really gross, but in an impressive way. The world is very H.R. Geiger inspired. The environment is an unsettling combination of very old looking technology and organic material set in what appears to be an alien factory of some sort that has been overtaken by some sort of egg-laying creature. Strangely, nothing comes to mind from any films that are kind of similar. You wake up in a pretty bad state, and you break free from something that's keeping you down on the ground. Then, once you've escaped that, you fall down a hole, somehow survive, and then the game begins. As part of what I'm sure is a deliberate choice by the developers, you don't get any information about your objectives, what's going on, or even how to control your character. There's no tutorial here. I'm guessing that's done to make the game feel more immersive. And it is. Pressing the I key to bring up your inventory doesn't bring up a window. You see your hands spread out holding all the things you've got. Not to say there's not some heads-up display stuff. There's only so far this immersive presentation can go. It does work to an extent. The game has stayed with me past the 6 hours it took me to complete. But at the same time, that does work against it at points. For example, it wasn't until I checked the key bindings that I realised I could heal. Not a big deal, as you can look up key bindings, but everything is up to you as a player to discover how things work. And that's just not going to gel with some people. The first act of the 5 that the game has will winnow out the people that don't like that kind of playstyle. It's a large area with a bunch of interactable objects that you can't currently use, and you have to figure out how to use them. That is basically the puzzle. I spent about half an hour running to and fro trying to figure out how to progress, and I did resort to a guide to confirm that I was on the right track. Without spoiling anything, I was, but I'd already spent enough time that I didn't want to waste more doing something that might not work. Once past this area, I only got tripped up by a puzzle right towards the end of the game, where I dipped back into the guide, because I had no clue what to do, and I honestly don't think I would have thought of the answer before I had given up on the game. Because a huge part of the satisfaction of playing Scorn is figuring things out for yourself, I don't really want to talk or show the puzzles. So instead, I'm going to talk about the combat. This is a bigger part of the game than I was expecting to begin with, and honestly it's a bit too clunky for how often you have to do it. You can pick up 4 weapons during the game. You've got an industrial tool that acts as a not a very good melee weapon, a pistol, a shotgun and a grenade launcher. Something to note is you can miss out on picking some of these up. I never saw the pistol, and once you get past an act you can't go back, so I finished the game without the pistol. Ammo is fairly limited, as are heals. There are unsettling organic stations that load you up with heals or ammo, which are dotted around the game. And there's few enough of them that you do have to be judicial in your use of heals and ammo. I found fighting a bit awkward. Your melee weapon has 2 attacks and then it needs to recharge, which takes a fair while, and is a problem to begin with when the most common enemies take 5 hits to kill. And they can do a fair bit of damage to you if you don't deal with them quickly. I'm guessing it's to make you feel vulnerable, and you do. I soon had the strafing tactic pretty well sorted out. There's chickens that spit at you from range, so either take them out with a pistol if you picked it up, or for me I lured them round the corner and then whacked them one at the right moment. I can't talk about the pistol, but the shotgun has a very long reloading time. again making things feel uncomfortable when you're fighting. If you do die, there are pretty generous checkpoints, so I never had to redo too much, so it wasn't the biggest deal. There is a boss fight in the game, in Act 5, that took a fair few attempts before I realised the right way to defeat it, but then once you figured it out, it's fine. There isn't actually much point trying to explain any more mechanics of Scorn, partly because discovering is a big part of the game, but also because there's not that much more to it. One thing I've not mentioned yet is the level of gore and body horror involved. It's a lot. We've got humanoids being torn apart, creatures that look like babies being squished, and your character's own body being ripped and torn the entire game. This is distinctly not a game for people that don't want to see blood and guts. And definitely not one for kids. I don't really care that much about the gore. It doesn't bother me, but I did find some of it unnecessary. I get that the brutality of the world the game is set in is being highlighted here. The industrial factory setting clearly used people as raw materials. But I would have been fine if a lot of that cruelty or indifference could have been implied rather than explicitly being shown. Clearly not what the developers were going for, and that's fine. But I do wonder how many people are going to be put off by that level of gore. That lack of direction, the body horror and violence and gore, and the mix of puzzles and clunky combat, I think is going to restrict the group of gamers that might want to play this one. I kinda liked it. I will say that the atmosphere the game creates, like the Geiger-esque world full of horrific monsters and weird technology interacting together, was really good, and did carry the game for me. At 6 hours there wasn't enough time for things to get stale, and I was somewhat invested in finding out what happens at the end. This is a difficult game to recommend. There's so many things that might put potential players off of this game, but all I can say is if the things that I've mentioned don't put you off, Scorn is an experience that I would pick up and try out. And you'll get no shade from me for looking stuff up online if you get stuck. That's enough crazy HR Geiger stuff for me though. I've got to go and feed the alien queen, so I'm off. Thanks for watching, and I'll talk to you soon. Goodbye.